On today's show, drama, tragedy, chaos. All these words embody the Dallas Mavericks every single night, giving you something different to make you feel like it's the lowest point a Mavericks fan could hit at any given moment. We'll talk about Kyrie's injury, what it means for the Mavs, and some good stuff from other teams on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
And welcome. You're locked on to NBA Game Night. My name is Nick Angstead, host of Locked On Mavericks podcast. Holding it together somehow. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everyday or making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today. And joining me, as always, from the great Locked On Bucks show. What'd you see in the NBA tonight, Camille Davis?
A lot of injuries, way more than I wanted to see. Even outside of the Mavericks, just a lot of guys getting banged up tonight.
It's tough. Guys going out, things happening. We'll talk about some of those injuries. We'll also talk about SGA dropping another 50 burger. Stay tuned to see how you can use that for DoorDash. We've been talking about that. We've been doing that ad for so long, and it's like somebody finally gets 50. Also, the Hawks get a win against the Grizzlies, and Desmond Bane.
Whew.
Stay after and get some drills in, buddy. We'll talk about that. We'll also play Count It Up, where we count out the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. Every single game we'll cover tonight, starting with the Dallas Mavericks. Now, Camille, usually on game night, we don't start with the team that lost by 24 points necessarily. But in this case, the Dallas Mavericks lose to the Sacramento Kings. Kings get the win. Good for them. They're in a spot now where they're pretty securely in the play-in standing. So I think they can feel good about that. They're 8th at the end of the night. But for the Dallas Mavericks, Kyrie Irving goes down with an injury in the second quarter. Falls down in a heap after a drive. He got his thigh kind of hit, and then he hyperextended his knee, and then he's on the ground, and he calls over for the trainers, and then he gets picked up after a while, and then you can tell he's grimacing, you can tell he's in pain, you can tell that something bad has happened to him. And this is a guy that has gone through injuries in his career in the past before, and so you know that he knows that something is not right, that it is not just a normal tweaked his ankle, little hyperextension of the knee, or, something that you could just kind of walk off, or you can, pound like LeBron used to do and pound your foot into the ground and just like feel better about what just happened to you. So Anthony Davis and a trainer come over and they help Kyrie up, and then they help him like hobble to the bench. He goes to the bench, and then immediately you can tell he remembers something. He thinks of something. They have him turn around, and like all three of them kind of turn around, like as they're doing like a three-legged race almost. And he walks to the free throw line, and he's there at the free throw line, has to take his free throws. And honestly, it felt like Kobe Bryant when he took those free throws. It felt like the mama mentality where he sat there. There were streaks coming down his face as if he had tears. He was sniffling, like you could tell he was in pain. He was struggling. Man, did he sit in and make both of those free throws and then get carried, help get walked right to the locker room. And it felt like an embodiment of everything Kyrie has been. We'll talk about how bad this is for the Mavs and all that. But that moment felt like an embodiment of what Kyrie Irving has been to this Mavericks team. They have gone through so much this year, even before the trade, where they were dealing with injuries. Luka had only played 22 games for the Mavs out of 60 this season. And Kyrie had been the one that had been their leader, that had been the guy to step up. He had been the guy to hold them all together in the finals last year. He was didn't play his right self, and he came into this season going, I'm going to come into this season, and this is going to be a revenge story for us to show what we're made of. That's what he told us at Media Day. And he has been that. And he has been that type of leader, and he was an all-star this season for the 9th time in his career. An absolutely incredible season for Kyrie that this is probably over now at this point for Kyrie. And that was just the most brutal part to me about this whole night.
Kyrie has, since he's gotten to Dallas, and just how his career, like how people talk about his career and how that's turned around during his time in Dallas, like what he has meant to the Mavericks during his time there has been huge. And to see him go down the way that he did in a game where you're already super shorthanded because you barely have a front court as it is. Like you got Kai.
Come on
Jones.
down, Kai Jones.
Hey, shout out to Kai Jones coming in getting a career high for him.
He got his career high in the second quarter.
Quick. It was easy when you just dive into the rim the whole time. And
Mavs know how to use bigs. I'll say that. Moses Brown, Kai
and
Jones,
I thought
whoever.
that was going to be a struggle with no Luka, but like, no, like it's just part of the way that the Mavericks play offense. So shout out to him. But the Kyrie Irving at the free throw line, that moment and hearing the arena chanting MVP, and it wasn't, they're not chanting that because they think he's really going to be able to win MVP, but like he's been like the most valuable player to this team this season, especially with everything that's happened with the Luka trade and just the injury misfortune. So to see Kyrie go down in that way, it was heartbreaking to me, and I'm not even a fan of that team.
I saw Kings fans saying, man, it was hard to watch that Mavericks team after that happened, because it has been. Now let's go big picture on this Mavs team. It's done. They're done. We've been doing on Locked On Mavs, we've been doing over and over again. Well, what if they get healthy? If they get healthy, nobody wants to face that team with his size and with Kyrie and with AD and all that. And, PJ playing at the 3, like what a massive team that's going to end up being. But Thursday, March 6th was supposed to be the day we were going to learn about the reevaluation of all the injuries of the bigs, the AD abductor injury, the Gafford leg thing, the Lively ankle thing. Like, you're going to learn about all those that day. And now it's like, all right, well, maybe we learned about Kyrie that day too, and just learn if the season is over, because it seems like it. A hyperextension, a bad hyperextension would keep him out like 4 to 6 weeks. Man. And that's the end of the season. There's 5 weeks left in the season because you go to like April 12th or 11th or whatever. And so what are you, if you hold on to hope for all these players, what are you even holding on to hope for? That they'll all come back with like 2 games left? Like, that doesn't seem worth it to me.
It doesn't. It really doesn't to me either, especially when you think about the fact that the Mavericks don't control their own first round picks in 2027, 28, 29, or 30. So like, you got 2 more years to have something with your own draft pick. So it might make some sense for the Mavericks to, if these guys aren't going to be able to come back in a, quick enough time frame, to just be like, let's try to make the best out of this terrible situation and see what we can get in the lottery this year, because it's looking kind of dark for the Mavericks, especially with some of the other play of other teams around them as well. Like, it could be tough. And knowing that in a few more years, you don't have control of your first round draft picks, it might make some sense to try to take advantage of the draft when you have a chance to do so.
What's weird is they're 3.5 games ahead of the Suns, the imploding Suns. Like, the sun is dying 1 billion years before it's supposed to. Yeah. And like, the Suns are not making a case to like beat them. Maybe the Blazers, we'll talk about a little bit later, are going to make a case to, but like, the Mavs will probably like walk backwards into the 10th seed at the end of the season. It is going to be weird.
It is. And this is the part of the season where it gets interesting when you start understanding what teams are playing for. Like, you got the teams that are really thirsty and desperate to make it to the playoffs, just to play in. Like, that's the goal of the team. That's why, like, when the Spurs had to shut down Wemby, I was like, that's unfortunate, because they were a team I was looking forward to seeing after All-Star break, of like, how far can they push it, especially with Fox down there as well. But he's out now, so like, they're out on the season as well. And then you look at the Pelicans, who too far gone, the Jazz way too far gone. So really, it's like those last 3 teams, the Mavericks, the Suns, and the Blazers, that are really towards the bottom of the Western Conference, that are realistically looking to try to get into the playoffs at this point. So it's like, which one of those 3 can fall backwards into that spot, as you were saying? Like, because if the Mavericks don't get the right injury news back, it's looking like it's going to be Phoenix or Portland in that spot there.
And they got in this situation to begin with, first of all, with a really bad trade that I've talked about my whole, like, it feels like my whole life. It's only been a month, but it feels like it's been forever. They brought in Anthony Davis, who was an injured player. He was not playing for the Lakers, which, okay, you're thinking a little more long-term than just like right now. He was injured. They also bring in Caleb Martin, who was hurt for the Sixers. Yep. Now, the Sixers didn't disclose his injury the best way, and they had to send us another second-round pick and all that. But they trade for 2 injured players, and then the trade is received so poorly, and Nico Harrison misread it so badly that Anthony Davis feels the need to come back too early from his injury. And then he gets hurt again in the game. PJ Washington did the same thing, where he was in and out with his ankle injury. Then he aggravates it a little bit more because he came back too early from his injury. And so the Mavs have, and then now Kyrie, had an insane minute load over and over again. We talked about on Locked On Mavs a ton. He played 40 minutes again. Oh my God, Kyrie played 40 minutes again. That he can't keep doing this over and over again. And now he gets an injury like this. Who knows if that, I have to imagine that played a factor. And so you're just making it even worse and worse for yourself. And so what now? You rush guys back at the end of the season just to save some semblance of competency at the end of the season. And it's all just stemmed from it. First of all, there was injuries before the trade, so you can't really blame, can't blame Nico for that, but you can blame him for a lot more. And you can blame him for the state of the season right now because of all that happened. And now where the Mavericks are is a team in 10th that's now looking at the end of their season because their best players and a literal playoff starting lineup is going to be out for the next game. Kyrie, Caleb Martin, PJ Washington, Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, and throw in Gafford. Like that is literally legitimately a really good playoff starting lineup.
Is there any news on Hardy as well? Because then
Jaden Hardy went out too.
Like that's a 6-man off the bench for that lineup right there as well. It's tough, especially with 20 games left for the Mavericks, I believe at this point, and more of them are on the road than they are at home. So like the Mavs have like more of a middle of the pack schedule when you're looking at strength of schedule, but having more games on the road than at home, plus the injuries, like it's tough. And then on top of that too, you got season ticket prices are going up. It's unbelievable, just unbelievable at this point for Dallas.
The Mavs announced they raised season ticket prices, and the reason they gave it is because of their investment in the team and because of their investing in fan engagement and more fan engagement.
Yeah.
You've definitely gotten more fan engagement, but not in the best ways, which I guess.
No, throwing fans out, making headlines in ways you don't want to. Tough.
Send a wellness check. My address is 86. No. Coming up. The Thunder are rolling right now. The one team they were scared of was the Dallas Mavericks. They're out of the way. What are the Thunder doing right now? And how did SGA drop 50? What was the most impressive about that? We'll talk about that and more coming up. Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by DoorDash. Speaking of 50 points, SGA did this. He scored 50 points in a basketball game. 51. He can do it. He's done it 4 times now this season. And if this deal was going on the whole season, that means 4 times with DoorDash, you've been able to get 50% off your order, up to $10 off, the next day from noon to midnight. So if you're listening to this on Tuesday, March 4th, you can do this right now. You have to have a Dash Pass membership. So sign up for a Dash Pass membership. See what else you can get with that kind of a deal, which is awesome too. But now you use the code NBA50, letters NBA, number 50, NBA50, from noon to midnight on Tuesday, March 4th, because SGA got 50 points, you can take advantage of this deal right now. You must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Check it out. See what you can do. There's all kinds of different ways that you can use DoorDash. You can use it for food. You can use it for all kinds of different things. Check it out. Must have an active Dash Pass. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night, being part of this show, being an everydayer. We appreciate each and every one of you for listening to the show. Check out the links in the description for all these great shows. Locked On Bucks. I'm not going to put Locked On Mavs in the great show category. It's not
still a great show.
The vibe's not going to be good for you.
Still a great show. People like to watch people commiserate. You know,
if you're a person that likes to watch the movies from the Razzie Awards instead of the Oscars, Locked On Mavs is the show for you for the rest of the season because we're going to be leaning into it. A team that is leaning into the opposite way. The Oklahoma City Thunder get a win against the Houston Rockets, who I don't know who the Rockets were playing, but the Thunder get the win and SGA drops 50 again. Let's hear from our guy Rylan Stiles of Locked On Thunder.
Oklahoma City Thunder get a win over the Houston Rockets in a game that Shai dropped 51 points. The 4th 50-point game of his season. SGA just takes over games, and his scoring punch is undoubtable. He's getting it going from the three-point line since February 1st. He shot 42% from 3. He was excellent tonight from beyond the arc. And he just shows you that for all the talk about what the Thunder role players can do, what the Thunder defense is, at the end of the day, this is a star-driven league, and the Thunder have a very bright star. The Thunder have a star that can power them to games even when they don't have their fastball, which they didn't have tonight. And SGA took over. SGA won the game. And that's all you can really ask for in a 50-point performance from your superstar. And hopefully, we'll see that many, many more times throughout this season and deep into the summer.
It is weird when you call the finals the summer. I don't know why, but it is in June. Like it is in the summer, but it just makes me think of like, wait, is he going to play in their summer league?
That would be wild.
50. How many would he drop? He dropped 100 in a summer league. 51 points for SGA. 18 of 30 from the field. Hit 10 of 10 free throws. You know, he's just a free throw merchant. So that's all he got going, right, Camille?
Not all he got going, but listen, good players know how to get points on the board, and getting to the free throw line is a talent.
The thing that stood out to me about SGA's game in this one is just his mid range is so good. It destroyed the Mavericks in the playoffs last year. He's lights out. It's an absolute weapon for him that he could just get to his spot wherever he wants. He's so smooth with his his crossover and then like the pull back into like a step back, like little mid range jumper. It's just so crucial to have that shot. All the great players I feel like of the NBA history in that same position have had that shot. You think about like Kawhi with it and Jordan with it and Kobe with it. And all these greats have had it. He has put together such an incredible season. I think he's the MVP. And now it's like, all right, time to do it. Time to do it in the postseason. I really liked Ryland's point about, we've talked all about these Thunder role players, but it really does come down to your star player sometimes.
It does. And that's what I say about the Bucks a lot, where I'm like, as long as Giannis is available, like they have a chance. When you have a star, and the Thunder have a real star in SGA on their team, like when you got somebody like that who can spark when you need it, because keep in mind too, in this game, like he had it going early. Like SGA took off early. He had 20 points in the first quarter alone. He went into halftime with 28 points, and at halftime, they were only up by 1 point. They needed every single one of those 28 points that he gave them in the first half. He had 45 points by the end of the third quarter, finished with 51, and you saw the Thunder create that separation in the second half. You saw the Rockets make it interesting, though, down the stretch.
Can't wait more.
But listen, when you got an SGA, someone who can get to his spot at any given time, it's really hard to stop. It's really, really hard to stop.
Especially when you're guarding him with Reed Shepard.
Which is like, he was just playing
so
G
bad
League
for him.
games. Like he was just in the G League, and he comes. I mean, they're all like, okay, your first start, and on top of that, now we want you to check SGA. Like, what an assignment. On
offense, he had 25 points though, 10 of 17 from the field. So a good shooting night for him. We should mention the Rock. Like the Thunder get this win. You're like, oh, against the Rockets, that's a good one. The Rockets started Jalen Green, started Jabari Smith Jr., but also Reed Shepard, Jock Landale, and Cam Whitmore. And they were without Şengün, Amen Thompson, Dylan Brooks, Steven Adams, like Fred VanVleet, and Tari Eason.
Yeah.
They're missing basically like 2/3 of their rotation in this one. It was, and they sat starters late too.
Mm-hmm. And that was the first time they ever had that starting lineup. Like that was a first ever.
Oh, I would hope.
Right? And it's against the Thunder. Like that's going to be tough to overcome for them. But like you said, Reed Shepard in the fourth quarter, he hit like 2 threes, sparked the Rockets 10-0 run. They got it close, but then Lou Dort responded. They had an 8-0 run, but the Thunder did, and they got separation, and they did not look back after that point. But for the Rockets to be as shorthanded as they were, they really did put up a really valiant effort in this game against the best team in the league, arguably.
Speaking of a valiant effort, the Atlanta Hawks get a win against the Memphis Grizzlies. A game-winning steal from Dyson Daniels, basically, this one. He continues his great play. Let's hear from Brad Rowland from Locked on Hawks.
Hello, friends. My name is Brad Rowland. The Atlanta Hawks get a much-needed victory in, honestly, quite memorable fashion on this Monday evening. They go to Memphis and erase a late deficit and win it at the buzzer, down by 10 points with about 5 minutes to go. The Hawks engaged in a furious comeback, 16-4 run to close the game for the Hawks in the final seconds after actually missing a pretty good look at a shot to take the lead. In the final seconds, Karis LeVert makes up for it. Dyson Daniels, the Hawks Defensive Player of the Year candidate, picks the pocket of Desmond Bane in the final seconds, outlet passes to Karis LeVert, who runs down and finishes honestly a pretty impressive, under control, kind of veteran Euro step move at the buzzer to finish it off. He had 16 points in the fourth quarter, did LeVert. He was the hero on this night for Atlanta with 25. But it was not just him. Lots of balance for the Hawks in this game. 7 guys in double figures on the way to this victory, plus Zachary Shai with 27 points for the number 1 overall pick in this game on only 13 shots. It was a balanced effort. It was an impressive effort. It was not always the prettiest game. It was very, very fast-paced, but the Hawks hung in there throughout, down as many as 13 points in the fourth quarter, and they stop a losing streak and get a much-needed victory on the road. We'll get into all the details, how it unfolded, all of the fun stuff from this one, and more on Locked on Hawks podcast.
What was the most impressive thing about this win to you?
Man, just the Hawks' ability to never be out of the game. I believe they had like 10 different games so far this season where they've come back from being down double digits because the Grizzlies opened the fourth quarter and you're like, okay, they're rolling now. They're starting to feel good. They got their lead to 13, but the Hawks have no quit. And that was the part of it that really stood out to me because they were able to win in this game in ways that you don't normally see. Like the Hawks had 50 points in the paint in the first half. In the first half, they averaged 54 points in the paint a game. The Grizzlies generally give up like 48 points per game in the paint.
What was Zach Edey doing down there?
Nothing. Once they lost
82 points in the paint.
It was over. It was over. And Jaren Jackson left that game in the first quarter early, and defense went out the window alongside of him.
Yeah, Jaren Jackson went out with it looked like an ankle injury or something. He twisted his ankle or something on a drive. He only played a minute 39. To me, the most impressive thing was Karis LeVert. It was another like reminder. Oh yeah, Karis LeVert is on the Hawks. It's like I feel like every time I watch them again, I'm like, oh, Karis LeVert is on the Hawks. Oh yeah, Terrence Mann is on the Hawks. But he scored 13 points in the last 4:30 of the game. The Grizzlies had a 10-point lead with 5:30 left, and Karis LeVert, multiple threes, the layups that you mentioned before. He took over. And that was a massive for them to have that score because Bogdanovich had not been that score for them this season when they needed somebody to go to. And then we have to mention on the Grizzlies side, Desmond Bane.
Tripled up.
35-point triple-double and gave this game away. He kept going for the kill shot over and over again in the last 5 minutes. He kept trying to go for that. All right, this three will end them. This step back three will end it. And then he traveled with a minute 16 left. That was brutal. And then he drove on Dyson Daniels, drove left, and Dyson Daniels got the cleanest steal I think he's gotten this whole season right off of that to the Karis LeVert layup at the buzzer. I mean, Desmond Bane, for a 35-point triple-double, maybe the worst 35-point triple-double I've seen this season.
That's going to be one that sticks with him. Like, he's going to remember his first triple-double for a lot of the wrong reasons, I think, as well. Because normally it's like we lost the game, missed his last 3 shots down the stretch, had 2 really bad turnovers down the stretch. And it's like you love to get that type of numbers with the first triple-double and a win. And they came with a heartbreaking last-second loss. Now this is the 3rd straight game the Grizzlies have lost, the first time all season that they've lost 3 games in a row. So it's a bittersweet one for Bane, I'm sure.
I don't think he's going to think this is I don't think there's anything sweet about it. I think
triple dub.
Biting into a fruit that's like way too, like not even close to ripe yet. And you're like, oh my God. Well, it looked good on the outside, but it just tasted, the texture was terrible.
You never forget your first time though, Nick.
Coming up, let's talk about, this could be your first time listening to Count It Up, where we count on the most interesting, fun things in the NBA, including, can a team catch the Mavs for 10th? And it's not the Suns. We'll talk about that and more. Locked On NBA Game Night coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by OpenPhone. If you are a small business owner, you know you got a bunch of different hats. You trying to do a bunch of things at once. You're trying to dribble against Dyson Daniels. It feels like it's so impossible sometimes. If you're trying to manage everything, OpenPhone can help you out with one thing. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help keep your work and your personal life separate. For just $15 a month, you can get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. OpenPhone works through an app on your phone and your computer. It integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others that you can use. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries. So you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up, which is absolutely awesome. If you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your computer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage with a customer. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OpenPhone, OpenPhone.com/LockedOnNBA. For 20% off 6 months, openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. If you have an existing phone numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port it over at no extra charge.
Big chicken, baby. Zion Williamson and porn star.
Take that for that.
Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up.
It's Count It Up, where we count out the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. Tonight, the Portland Trailblazers get a win against the 76ers, who used to have the title for the season from hell before the Dallas Mavericks ripped it out of their hands this year. Portland Trailblazers get a win. The Blazers are 5-1 over their last 6, 15-6 over their last 21, Camille,
Count it up.
can the Blazers get the 10th seed? Because the Mavericks are falling down. The Suns don't seem to want it. And it doesn't seem, and the Spurs aren't going to get it. Doesn't seem like anybody wants it. Can the Blazers do it?
I mean, the Suns have the toughest schedule remaining in the entire NBA. So it's going to be tough for them going forward, even though they have more star power on their team. They just haven't been able to put it together so far this season. And we've talked about what the Mavericks are dealing with right now. I think it's in play for the Blazers to sneak into that 10 spot. I think the Suns are going to be their real competition, which that sentence sounds weird. Like the Blazers and the Suns are competing for the 10 seed, but that's how it's shaking out. And I think the Blazers could possibly do it. They have a tough schedule too. They're third in the league along the way, but luckily the team that they're chasing, the Phoenix Suns, have a tougher schedule, and it looks like injuries might derail everything for Dallas.
It's wild to look at what this Blazers team has done. The Blazers have beat the Suns their last 2 times that they've played.
Yeah.
And so that they look like a better team straight up. They just took the Cavs to overtime the other night. Like they can catch you all of a sudden. You go, oh man, like this Blazers team, they've got something. Anthony Simons can go off. Yep. You've got some good defensive pieces every once in a while. I've got some really good role players there. I think they can catch the Mavs because it's about to get real bleak. It's about to get real bleak for a couple weeks for the Mavs. This Mavs team had a hard time scoring with Kyrie. Now without Kyrie, they had like 9 points in the third quarter against this Kings team for like 10 minutes. Basically, it was rough throughout this one. So I think I'm with you. I think they can catch.
Yeah,
they can catch the Mavs. So. I think that's the team, and I'm definitely watching the Blazers from here on out. The Warriors. We've been watching the Warriors because they got Jimmy Butler now. They get a win tonight. Let's hear from Chuck Walter of Locked On Warriors.
Golden State Warriors players record double-doubles in the game. It's Draymond Green, it's Brandon Bajimski, and it's Steph Curry. But it's Buddy Hield who leads the way for Golden State with 22 points in the game. It was not a pretty win by any means. In fact, it could be described as painful as we saw Steph Curry hobbling in the game.
Hold on. Did anybody have a good win tonight in the NBA?
I told you.
I feel like every win was painful. Everybody's mentioned it.
Brandon Bajimski had to go to the locker room. He would return, and then Gary Payton left with an apparent nose injury. We did not see the return of Payton in the game. The Warriors really struggled to shoot it in the first half, shooting around 25% from 3 for the majority of it. They woke up in the second half, knocking down 36% of their shots. Brandon Bajimski with 19. Buddy Hield, did I mention 22 to lead the way? They're now 12-1 of the Warriors when he scores more than 18 points in a game. That is their secret sauce. And then Steph Curry had 20 points in the game today. 10 assists, too, for Steph Curry, meaning back-to-back games he's reached double figures in that regard. Warriors win 119-101 over the Charlotte Hornets.
They are 8-1 now with Jimmy Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little. Count it up.
How much more are you threatened by the Dubs on a scale of 0 to 5 now with the Jimmy Butler?
They're coming. We talked about it during the All-Star break, and the Warriors were a team in the West where I'm like, I think that they're going to have a really nice run coming out of All-Star break. So, like, on a scale of 1 to 5 for these Warriors, like, they can stay healthy. They're a strong 4 in my book because Steph Curry is looking rejuvenated. Jimmy Butler just adds a different element to this team, and defensively, they've been locking up. I'm so surprised that this really small ball lineup that they've been throwing out here has been effective, but like they're causing some havoc with it.
Right now, they're the 6th seed. They would play the Denver Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs right now. And that would be a fascinating series because, like you said, they play this really small lineup. They've got Looney coming off the bench. They've got Quentin Post, the 7-foot, young guy coming off the bench. They got Trace Jackson Davis, who just played garbage time. He has been relegated to not very many minutes lately for them. Like that matchup would be so interesting. To me, I think I'm a 4 with you too. They're so much more threatening with Jimmy Butler. He gives them such another angle. And I think even Draymond said tonight that they want him to be more aggressive, and they're still waiting for him to unleash like actual Jimmy Butler. Gets to the free throw line, can play make, can defend. He could do a lot of the things. He fits in that system really well. Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely more threatened by them.
I mean, coming out of All-Star break, the Warriors are first in offensive rating, first in net rating. They're first in defensive turnover percentage. Like, they have really been hooping. So watch out for them Warriors going forward.
The Heat, I'm not as threatened by anymore. But let's hear from Wes Goldberg of Locked On Heat after the Heat get a win against a team that a lot of teams seem to be beating.
Well, the Miami Heat only had 9 players available, but it didn't matter because they were playing the Washington Wizards. They get a 106-88 win over the Wizards. Nice bounce-back win for them after Sunday's disappointing loss when they blew a 19-point lead to the Knicks. But by winning this game, the Heat have now won 3 of their last 4 games. They're starting to put some winning games together here. Nice performance overall by Bam Adebayo, who with tonight's double-double became the franchise all-time leader in double-doubles with 222, passing Miami Heat legend Ronnie Cycli. And he's just continuing to climb the franchise leaderboard charts in terms of minutes played, games played, points, blocks, rebounds, and all of these things. He's been to the finals twice, 3-time All-Star. It's starting to be worth considering where Bam ranks in terms of Heat players all time. He's not on the Mount Rushmore yet. He needs a championship for that. But he's rising up these rankings pretty quickly, and he's putting a nice body of work together.
I'll take it a step further. He's also 3-time All-Star, 5-time All-Defense, 2-time gold medal winner, 2 finals runs for Bam Adebayo.
Count it up.
Camille, is the Onomatopoeia a Hall of Famer yet?
Ooh, that's a great question, Nick. I think if it was like Basketball Reference and I haven't looked at what like the Hall of Fame percentage is, he has to be over 50%, I would think, at this time. Like, I would imagine he's probably around like a 65%, 70% lock for the Hall of Fame right now at this point in his career. If he can get a championship along the way, it's just going to be nice for him. Are you looking it up? Am I close? I'm off, aren't I?
The Hall of Fame probability has him at 7%.
7? Take a 0 off of what I was talking about. Sheesh.
Yeah, 0.0076. That's 7.6% of the Hall of Fame. Maybe we're taking a little bit too far. I take the 2 gold medals into account, right?
That's what I was thinking too.
You do some of that? No, I don't know. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer yet, but his resume is a little bit better than maybe you would think.
Yeah, it's building. It's building.
Team that is not better than you would think, the Utah Jazz. They lose to our Detroit Pistons. Let's hear from our fearless leader, David Locke, about his Utah Jazz.
In a rebuilding year for the Utah Jazz, the really, truly poor performances have been few and far between, but tonight was one of those. They trailed by 14 at the end of 1 to the Detroit Pistons, who came in having won 9 of 10. Trailed by 20 at the half, 21 at the end of 3, went down by as many as 31 in this game and lost it 134 to 106. This was not a great night for the youngsters tonight, though. Kyle Filipowski's offense continues to shine, 25 points and 8 rebounds for the 32nd pick of the draft, who ironically the Jazz got for Simone Fontecchio, who is on Detroit, who's shooting 38% from the field and 31% from 3 this year. So that was probably a pretty good deal by the Utah Jazz to pull off that deal and get Kyle Filipowski in that deal. Otherwise, the Jazz did not have a lot of highlight performances in a blowout loss, 134-106, which wrapped up the longest homestand in franchise history of 9 games. And we'll see whether or not the Jazz can get things going on the road as they head to Washington, Toronto, and Philadelphia, teams that may have the same goals as the Utah Jazz. Next.
Count it up.
How many of those games are you watching, Camille?
If it's on a Monday, then that's the one I'm watching.
Jazz, what was it? Utah, Philly, and Toronto? Like, maybe.
No.
That's the Jazz side. The Pistons side of it. Cade Cunningham, 29 points, 9 assists. We've talked about the Pistons pretty much every Monday they get a win. But outside of Cade Cunningham, which Piston is having the biggest impact to you?
I think Duren, because he's really started to turn the season around. Early on, he was having some up and down games, but he's been really consistently in a defensive presence for this team. So I think I would go with Duren.
I would go Duren too. 16 and 12 tonight. His ability to just rebound and his athletic ability has just given them so much. I feel like game after game on a Monday, we talk about them and how big of an impact he's made and how much he makes it work. And for a while, I didn't think that the Pistons thought that he could play center by himself. They tried the Isaiah Stewart thing with him. They feel like they tried some other things, but he's been playing center by himself. Like Tobias Harris, who didn't play in this game, but has been the 4. I guess Asar Thompson was the 4 today. It didn't matter because it's the Jazz. But yeah, they made it work, and I feel like he has had a huge impact on this team for sure. I mean, Asar Thompson could probably be an answer. There, some of the shooters maybe.
Beasley off the bench.
Yeah, true. Yeah, Beasley having an impact there. Yeah, a lot of impact there. But Pistons, another win for them. Another win for Locked On NBA Game Night. Camille Davis and Locked On Bucks. Go check out that show. Go check out all the great shows that we have here on Locked On NBA. Check the link in the description and find that show that covers your team every day. Guys, thanks for listening to Locked On NBA Game Night.